Welcome back to MSI Countdown, where day 2 will kick off with G2 Esports versus Team Liquid. The LCS champions started the group stage with a 2-0, and Jensen had this to say about his day 1 performance.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with TL's Jensen ahead of day 2 at MSI, coming off a 2-0 day on day 1. Super impressive. How do you look back on the 2 games you played on day 1?
I think they went pretty good, pretty clean games from us, but at the same time, I think we had the weaker part of the schedule at least, so I think the real test lies ahead of us tomorrow, so I'm satisfied we were able to 2-0, but I don't really think too much of it right now.
I think that's a good way to look at it, because of course IG is the world champion, G2 is a tough opponent as well. What do you think will be the keys to taking down those teams?
I think as long as we don't fall into like their crazy style of play and we just play our own game, which we did today, then I think we have a pretty good shot at beating both of them.
That's interesting, because there's been a lot of talk about TL having to play more aggressive or changing up the style a little bit. Doublelift said, well, it's all about the balance. How do you look upon possible changes you have to make, or do you think you should stick more to the style you have been playing in LCS?
Well, I think it's just a mix of both. Like, I think we like to have a good balance of like macro and then just also fighting at the same time, whereas teams like G2 and ID, they tend to go for fights a lot more rather than just macro play. So as long as we don't like fall into that trap and just play more macro oriented, but also fighting like just when it's a good timing for us, then I think we have a pretty good shot.
Okay. Specifically about the G2 matchup, is there anything extra you want to say about the Clash versus EU?
Well, I mean, last time it didn't go too well for me against Caps, but this time I'm gonna have to clap him.
Fantastic, looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Jensen. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Like Jensen said himself, despite North America's 2-0 start, today is their first real test here at MSI 2019.
And here's the thing, these are the 2 super teams, NA versus EU. Everyone wanted this iteration of TL. They made the adjustments. This is their international roster. And then on the other side, you have the G2 powerhouse, such a dominant force. And it feels like the stars have really aligned for this epic showdown. Because right now it's 4-4 at MSI, I believe. So this could be the decider.
Oh, now you're putting some extra pressure. I'm sure they don't even know about that. Hopefully, you know, I think they're not going to be hit by the pressure too hard. I think in particular, the mid lane matchup for me is the most important one. I love the fact that we got to hear from Jensen, especially going up against Caps. I love how Jensen plays on internationals. There's no nerves when he comes onto the field, comes out with a new champion, like tier list overall, like the Akali's excellent. I still love his Syndra, so I know we'll see it back on stage.
And speaking of the Akali, I think the draft is so important, not just because of a G2 and a G2 game, but specifically TL's drafting points. We already know that the Akali gives them that extra factor that they can play through, but things like the Gangplank and the Tahm Kench, time and time again, teams are targeting out CoreJJ. They're taking away the Kench, they're taking away the Braum. At what point will people start to look at Impact getting a free pass on Gangplank and start to ban that away?
Yeah, the GP is so interesting because on one hand, it's his best champion and it provides a global ulti that's super useful for the bottom lane in order for them to get further ahead and snowball the game, which we know is the preferred style. But on the other hand, it is a pick that you can counterpick and actually destroy pretty hard in the early game. You know, get big CS leads, take an early turret, maybe even try and kill him with a gank or 2, and you can get your top laner to be really, really strong split pusher. So I get both sides. You know, the one where you ban it to say, listen, it's the best pick, we don't want to deal with the global part, but I also understand the let's leave it open and let's try and destroy it.
Specifically, the level of coordination coming in from Flash Wolves and Flangvu Buffalo in their 4 games, I say, to look to dive GP hasn't been working out. But certainly the teams that we'll be seeing today, that Team Liquid will be going up against, will have that idea to be able to put Impact down.
I think that's actually a huge thing. I don't think this GP has been tested on this international stage yet, because no one has looked for the dive. And this could be G2's big moment to say, let's let it through, and if it is, that's a trap. Everyone knows it's coming if it's left open.
But it's got to be one way or the other. Either you get rid of the champion to see what Team Liquid goes to next, or you let them have it, but you attack it this time around. Put Impact under
don't
pressure.
do the split farm thing with GP where you're not going aggressive on top side, because then it's just a great pick for Team Liquid.
Diffusion, I do want to jump back to the mid lane matchup, though, real quick, because we obviously hit that the Akali for Jensen has been a solid pick so far. But Caps, I want to talk about how he matches up against Jensen. It seems like he's got that somewhat of a mental block blocker against Rookie, but no one else. And so I would expect him to return to form here.
Yeah, 100%. I think Caps is a lot more explosive in the way he's playing. There's a lot more carry threat coming from his side. And I think when we did see them last year, as Jensen said himself, when he was on C9, it was pretty heavily towards Caps. So I think there is an advantage for G2 they're looking to use here on their side. And that's kind of the whole story for me. It's just the two solo laners are where G2 are really strong, and that's where they're going to get the advantage over TL.
And whenever we talk about the mid lane matchup, oftentimes you have to bring in the jungle situation. For Xmithie last international event, his coordination with Pobelter wasn't on top. A lot of it was incredibly shaky. And so far at this point of the tournament, he's been hovering around the lane, has great control over the lane matchup, and specifically in the Vumvu Buffalo game, has had the number on Null. Now, Null got mauled by Jensen in the early portions of the laning phase, but certainly Xmithie made it certain that was going to stay the same.
I think it's also important to highlight for Jensen that typically he's very good at the very minimum, to go even in lane. It's rare he's getting destroyed. So even if Caps are picking something super aggressive and they're trying to take him down, he typically ends up farming very well. And then once you get out of laning phase, he's able to do a lot. Like the Akali pick has been so huge because not only did he get a lot of farm, he even got early kills, and then he really got to shine.
Well, some key points to today's first match, but I want to see where you align in our predictions today. Yesterday, we let you get away with the first three, then the second three, because we hadn't seen the majority of these teams play just yet on the international stage. This time around, we made you pick all six off the top of the day. Not terribly surprised to see alignment across the board, except in that sixth and final game, Frosker, and you're going for SKT over IG.
Because I've already seen adaptation from SKT. It's very clear that they face a similar team. We call them Baby IG there with G2. They got slammed in the top lane. Immediately, the next time around you see them, yes, it's against Flash Wolves, but they're prioritizing the Rise. They're giving it to Calm. They're giving him resources. I think SKT have figured this out, and if we talked about that team that's going to strike a balance between playing controlled or trying to match fast, my money's on SKT, and I think this time around, they're going to take it to IG.
It is the best game of the day for me. And for me, I would have it for IG simply on the fact that I've seen this team play this fashion in the past and recover the day after. So I understand that Ning and the Shy in particular came out looking shaky.
2-0.
100%, and I think they come in a little stronger today.
Well, we got 5 games to go before we get to that doozy of a sixth, but I want to take a look at win conditions. Granted, all three of you picked G2 to win this one. Raz, I am going to challenge you then to give me the win conditions for TL here in this first game of the day.
Well, we've seen it already yesterday, and a lot of it comes through playing through Jensen and picking well for your bottom side of the map. 100% we've been seeing Doublelift and CoreJJ succeeding when they're able to get the Tahm Kench, Braum, or the Varus and Lucian. So if we pick well for Doublelift, who's able to come out well in these 2v2s, and at the same time play through Jensen, that's going to be the success point for the squad.
All right, what would be the response then for G2 Deficio?
Well, first of all, don't let TL draft a super strong bot lane that they can play through and get ahead with, because we know that's the main way for them to win these games. And then I also just think play towards Wunder. This obviously goes in with the GP and the impact discussion we had before. It's not just Wunder 1v1, it's Jankos, it's Caps. I think G2 will have a big advantage on that side of the map, and they should take full advantage of it.
Any thoughts there for Oscar? You think they nailed it?
I think they pretty much got all of it.
All right, well, it's left then to the teams to decide who will take the victory. With the Rift prep of the teams nearing Champion Select, let's send it over to Jankos, Vedius, and Azael for Game 1.
Thank you very much, Das. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Jankos here with the deadly EU and NA combo of Andrew Vedius Day and Isaac Azael Cummings.
You did it!
I know! They don't know that was a
so
challenge.
proud of
you.
you.
Missed plans. I butchered his name like a
He was like 0 for 5.
Yeah, I called you Isaac a lot. I apologize. But luckily, we've got that right. Now we're going to need to see how it's going to shape up in Champion Select as we enter our first game of the day. And when we were
I thought we were done.
You thought that was it? You thought that was the challenge?
Yeah.
We'll sub it Captain Flowers.
There are still many challenges for both these teams ahead, as now we get the fabled EU versus NA rivalry, and it's a pretty exciting one. EU came off of a pretty mixed day with a big win over SKT, and then a pretty devastating loss versus IG, whereas Team Liquid, they're slowly working their way up the food chain in the group stages, and G2 is going to be their next big opposition.
Exactly. I think, honestly, both teams can be fairly happy with their day one. G2 having the 2 hardest teams, coming in with tournament expectations, taking down SKT. TL, though they had weaker opponents, they looked very good against them, so I think both teams are going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, solid first day from both teams, but now this match is going to tell us a lot about the tournament to come. Of course, very historic rivalry. And when we talked about this matchup overall, you both said that the draft would define so much of how this game would play out.
And expectations were that bans would go towards the bot side of the map. Very commonly, we see the Taric and the Tahm Kench banned against the side of Team Liquid, largely because most teams don't want to have to deal with the Sona Taric. And on top of that, CoreJJ is just such a monster on this Tahm Kench pick. So going to be denying those options, and with the Jarvan on top, just kind of taking one of those big priority junglers out of the draft.
Yeah, notably absent from that ban list is GP. I would be interested to see if G2 wants to A, take it away, or B, if they do want to try to pick something to actually kind of counter it or deal with it very effectively. With Akali open, you're certainly expecting TL to be able to grab that up. Jensen likely will be the recipient of the pick, but Impact did play it in the LCS as well, and I do think that taking away flex picks from G2 is something that is fairly important, because it's going to give TL a better chance on the red side to actually know what they're dealing with when it comes down to these last picks.
I think G2 is quite happy by picking up the Sylas, commonly considered a pretty good matchup into the Akali, yet saying that, we did see Jensen have a fantastic performance yesterday against Null on the Sylas, so I don't think Team Liquid is going to be too afraid with that pickup. We're now looking at something like the bot lane. Typically they save their top lane pick to the second half of the draft, making sure that Impact is in a comfortable position as possible. So now they're going to look to focus their support, which is actually the Galio for CoreJJ.
And CoreJJ finally getting his hands on one of the priority support picks. Often we see him focused out and banned away here. His Tahm Kench taken away, the Sona Taric also limited, but with the Galio picked, G2 now feeling comfortable to lock in a bot lane of their own with the Nautilus as a potential flex.
Yeah, exactly. It could be flexed. We have been seeing it, I feel like, more and more towards the support role, though throughout play-ins it mostly was focused in the mid lane. I do think it certainly can work in both ways. Against G2, Mata did actually play that Nautilus support. It did not work out so well going up against Perkz and Mikyx, who were playing the Zyra Rakan, and I do think, you know, Lucian here makes quite a bit of sense. Lucian alongside that Galio, fairly powerful 2v2 to be matched up against Kai'Sa, whether it's with the Nautilus or a different support.
Yeah, when I saw this Galio come out, I think it was pretty smart from G2 to instantly take the Kai'Sa, because we've been seeing a lot of Kai'Sa Galio bot lanes that have been very difficult to deal with. But Team Liquid saying we still want to have our strong 2v2 bot side, and as you were saying, Azale, anything like a Lucian when it's paired up with an aggressive support in the Galio, still a lot of setup. So now we're looking at the direction of what junglers Xmithie will go for, because as the analyst desk was saying, we want to see Team Liquid continue to play through this bot side of the map, because if they're going to get an early game advantage against a team like G2, the bot lane is where it's going to be.
And in order to alleviate some of the concerns from the other lanes, we now see the Aurelia banned away once again. The flex picks being limited, very clear strategy for TL going into this matchup with G2. And now the Kennen taken away from Impact in the top lane. I like that they're still giving him the respect bans, despite the perception that Impact may not stack up as well one-to-one.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Impact, you know, he plays these picks often to survive lane, because Xmithie is very rarely playing up towards that top side of the map. So even if they are getting him something that is fairly powerful in lane, along the lines of the Jace or the Kennen, it's often more to survive the lane, then split the map, be able to kind of draw pressure to him and absorb that. But GP, Kennen, and Jace all off the table, and those have been kind of three of the biggest priority picks for Impact.
So G2 now looking at Impact and saying, what else have you got left in the table on the bench? Because we've seen him play a couple of things throughout the split, but these were some of the big picks that he often relied on. But he will get that counter pick, he will have that final pick, and now for Team Liquid, they may look at something like a Sejuani as a possible option, but seeing as we saw the Trundle came out from them yesterday, maybe they'll be a little hesitant to pick it up.
Sejuani has been locked in, see if Jankos wants to respond. Of course, Jankos' Karthus still on the table. A lot of regions not comfortable playing against this champion. Trundle has been shown once already. I wonder if G2 will run it back into TL, and if this is something outside of just an Xmithie pocket pick. But the important thing, you mentioned final pick for Impact into the top lane. How much is it going to matter with so many flex picks on the side of G2?
Yeah, and we'll see what the final pick is going to be for G2. Olaf will get locked in. This should give them a lot of early jungle priority. Olaf certainly is a very powerful jungler in those early levels, and you know, will be able to pair up, I think, especially alongside something like the Nautilus, which provides so much gank assist. I actually would really like the Vladimir as a pick, because that is something I was considering on the side of TL. That is another pick that Impact does actually like and will go to when he is pushed down in the priority. But them taking this away feels like they're picking a scaling pick and saying, Impact, you need to be able to punish this in lane. And that is generally not Impact's forte. His own kind of matching scaling pick of the Gangplank is already gone, so we'll have to see where it goes.
I mean, we've got to remember that potentially Impact could still play the Akali top lane, right? That is still a flex champion. While we typically see the Akali go on to Jensen, it is one potential option. But right now they are hovering the Hecarim towards the top side. But instead, it looks like that they're going to go for something a little bit more aggressive. The Aatrox considered pretty lane dominant. I would imagine that they want that into something like the Vladimir. Perhaps can struggle against the Sylas, who's very in your face, can trade very aggressively early on. But we'll see what G2 look to try and match up against Team Liquid.
Yeah, definitely expecting, Impact to trying to be playing that into the Vladimir. Certainly can be a good matchup, I think, in the early levels. Before
100%.
Vladimir does get some levels, pick up some more CDR, that is when you can start dealing more effectively with the Aatrox. You also have to remember Deathbringer stance, that passive auto attack does apply, his own form of grievous wounds there, reducing both the healing and the shielding. So that is going to be fairly effective in those short trades. And Aatrox, the tether as well, does actually go through the pool. If that is already connected, you will get yanked back. So we'll see if they actually want to play up towards this top side of the map, because if Xmithie is not up there, I doubt that Impact can pressure the matchup enough to really kind of punish this Vladimir pick.
And a lot of questions. I think Xmithie, the biggest catalyst for how this game will play out on the side of Team Liquid, where he chooses to put his attention. When in doubt, we always assume it's going to be towards the bottom side of the map, but both of his lanes with leads can accomplish great things in this game. So much will be answered in the laning phase, and the draft, I feel like to a certain degree, going as expected with these picks. The Aatrox really feels like the only curveball.
I feel like what we're seeing is, as you're rightly, I mean, when his champion pool is so pinched, you're now looking at what next steps could he go for. And I think Aatrox can make sense because I think it's pretty self-sufficient. The changes to Aatrox haven't come through yet. We're still on 9.8, which means that he's a difficult champion to dive. Once he hits level 6, of course. And against the Vladimir, it's going to take time for him to ramp up.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. Our first game of the day. Team Liquid versus G2. NA versus EU. A rivalry as old as time. If you've been playing League of Legends, you must know about it. I'm ready to see how it shapes out. Team Liquid currently 2-0. G2 1-1 after a tough first day. Will the scores even up, or can TL pull ahead with a 3-0 start to the group stage?
So I want to keep my eyes on the junglers, as I often do in the early game, because we already talked a lot about how Xmithie and Jankos will be a big part in who enables their team to get the early game lead. And expectations are that Xmithie will look to play towards the bot side of the map. You have a Galio Lucian, a very easy lane to be able to set things up, but you are playing the Sejuani as well. And something you have to be very careful of is going up against someone like an Olaf. If he matches you and he gets that counter gank off, it could end in disaster.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to be, really dangerous. And I think as a result, Xmithie is going to be trying to do something that he really does excel at, and that is tracking the jungler, avoiding the jungler, placing vision so his lanes kind of know where he is. I think Xmithie is one of the most talented junglers in NA at really having a good sense of where the enemy jungler is on the map. He's very well known for being able to anticipate where they could be, even with imperfect information. So for him, it's more about trying to match farm. If you're in a situation where you're hitting 6 on Sejuani and Olaf hasn't killed your lanes yet, you're going to be feeling very, very good.
And it feels like both junglers in a comfortable position. Xmithie happy to be the guy who is the counter ganker, who tries to read the map, who tries to be there for the plays, and Jankos. We've seen it in the Elise. We've seen it in so many of his picks. Early game is his MO at the moment. And now we're going to see a cheeky early invade here, not spotted out on vision. So G2 will be able to take the blue buff away. We talk frequently about top to bot side jungling, but this ward going to give away the start. And Xmithie will now have some good information on Jankos' path.
One of the things I actually love about this from G2 is even though it's spotted by TL, you're kind of pushing Xmithie into this vertical jungling on the top side of the map. He's doing it on Impact's side, which is mean he's not going to actually be down by Doublelift, by CoreJJ, which is that lane they more want to be able to play towards and gank for.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Isaiah. That Team Liquid as a team has this priority on playing towards the bot side of the map, and this means that their jungler is now forced to play on the top side. So this aggressive lane of a Lucian Galio is forced to play a little bit more defensively, and arguably it's valuable for G2 to have been spotted out because then it forces this invisible pressure onto the duo of Team Liquid.
And then kind of puts the ball into the court of Xmithie as well, because now with that top side presence, you have to wonder if he's actually going to take the time, if he is going to pay some attention and try to shut down Wunder. Difficult to gank Vladimir, but only level 2, so some small opportunities in the early game.
Yeah, and I mean, if Wunder is pushed up, that certainly is a lane you can attack, and I don't think that Xmithie is just going to willfully ignore that if those opportunities do arise. So we will have to see Wunder playing fairly careful around this because he's still fairly pushed up in the lane, and Xmithie does have the opportunity to come up here behind him.
Impact still level 2, might be waiting for the level 3 here to come out. Engage on the bottom side though, Dredgeline going to connect, taunt from CoreJJ, Doublelift content to back off and try to trade back, but the action will continue on the top side. Xmithie stepping forward, immediate pool going to come out there from Wunder, not interested in trying to trade back, just wants to back off.
And this, honestly, the situation is so good for G2 because it was a full clear from Jankos on Xmithie's blue side of the jungle. So he took away 3 camps, and all Xmithie was able to actually get was the blue buff. Then he went up to actually take that pressure.
And now the trade just continues to extend. CoreJJ going back in, but the Ignite is ticking. Perkz wants to get the damage down, but Mikyx grabbing first blood with the Ignite. Huge play on the bottom side.
Big pickup for the duo of G2, finding first blood onto Doublelift and CoreJJ, who, to the eyes of many fans and analysts, considered one of the best duos in the tournament, but the action isn't slowing down as G2 look for a play in mid.
Jensen potentially in trouble, has the dagger to jump back to the Shuriken. Will take him to safety as well as the Shroud, but Jankos already laying down some early pressure.
Yeah, that was really well played by Jensen to avoid it, but the kill on the bottom side is so big for G2. You have this Kai'Sa lane who is now out to a farm advantage, who is winning in that 2v2, and not only that, but they took 2 summoners off of TL, so they have summoner advantage as well.
And such an uncharacteristic play from CoreJJ as well. This guy so far at MSI, in the group stages, has not died. He's had perfect games so far throughout the group stages, and he was considered North America's MVP. A lot of confidence gets put onto this bot laner, so for him to get caught out of position like this, definitely uncharacteristic.
Yeah, definitely the case, and kind of absorbing that hook there for Doublelift. Doublelift, though, maybe could have just dashed it and had CoreJJ simply back off. Either way, nicely played there by G2. They did have the level advantage on the all-in, as Perkz was up 1 level there, it looked like on Doublelift, and that was just really well played.
And early in the draft, we thought the Galio was a good sign for CoreJJ. You can see so many support bands leveled against him leading up into this game. As we see an extended trade on the top side, but CoreJJ often the heart of this team, often the leader in so many situations, and going behind early, definitely not what TL fans expected.
Yeah, certainly not what they want, but I would say, you know, CoreJJ is more known for kind of the supports along the lines of the Braum, the Tom Kench, and those are really his bread and butter. We'll see if he is going to be able to excel in more of the kind of playmaking style that I see this support Galio as.
Now, however, we do see a bit of extended trade in the mid lane. The Conqueror choice for Sylas, not something that we always see, but has been very powerful in a lot of these extended melee trades. The healing from it coming in clutch against the Akali.
Yeah, I'm actually a really big fan of Sylas into Akali. One of the things that Sylas can do is when you're in the middle of a minion wave, even if Akali is in Shroud, his passive ability can still hit the Akali, and he has a lot of skill shots that can continuously damage her, and he has a surprising amount of sustain with his W as well, which means he often just out-trades and out-duels and may even lock down the Akali.
Caps going forward, Jankos is here as well, does manage to land the stun in the Shroud. Invisible, but I don't think it's be long enough. The flash out, clutch from Jensen. Jankos wants it, he's going for it. The axe will come through, will connect, and Jankos takes down Jensen.
Oh, really well played there by Jankos. It was all about if Jensen could dodge that or not, and he wasn't able to. Jensen getting pressured very heavily here by Jankos. Multiple ganks in the early game to this lane, trying to help out Caps and get him ahead.
And after Jensen's performance in the previous 2 games, you can understand why they might want to shut down this Akali. Jensen has been incredibly powerful in the first day of the group stage.
I remember how we talked about coming into this game, and what the analyst said was that the junglers were going to be pivotal in who finds the early game leads, and the split map decision that G2 make to force Xmithie up to the top side enabled this bot lane of G2 to play aggressively, and has made it harder for Jensen to play the way he wants to in this matchup, giving Olaf all this freedom to look to these plays and help G2 get an early lead.
Yeah, and I mean, I think attacking this Ignite lane is so big, because when you are going at this guy and you're pushing him back to base, you're actually getting a kill on him. He doesn't have teleport to just come back to lane and pick up that farm. So when he dies with the wave at his turret, that is all lost experience, lost farm. You can see as a result, Caps is up a level because of all this pressure that Jankos has put on. So, you know, that is kind of the trade-off there, and Xmithie has not been in position to help out with Jensen either time.
Now the bot side, though, CoreJJ just threatening an engage here, but it's not just the level, it's not just the individual 1v1 difference, but the pressure in mid lane now compounding to additional advantages. Jankos able to take that blue buff away, and now the team set up to look for a dive. Caps has the Akali ult stolen. They can fully commit for this if they want to. Jankos will be spotted out. Ping's gone down on the Caps. Pretty sure they know the situation. They will back off, but G2 happy to play for the tower plates.
Caps had priority in mid lane. G2 were aware that Xmithie was likely going to be on his red buff because it spawned at the same time as the blue. So G2 maintaining control over the bot side and just doing what they can to mitigate the pressure of Doublelift and CoreJJ, the duo that would often help get early leads for this Team Liquid squad, and G2 are doing whatever they can to shut them down.
Yeah, they certainly are, and so far, so good. You have to say for G2, they're out to a very strong early advantage. Yes, the gold lead is not massive, but everything has been going their way. It is Jankos creating the plays. It is Jankos creating a lot of the pressure, and you know that in addition to that bottom lane kill was very big. And this is just a really nice play here from G2. You land the chains from Caps in that Shroud, and then Jankos goes for the chase down.
I thought this was going to be another international Jankos moment when he flashed under the turret. There was a bit of
I saw it in my head, man.
There were a couple of hesitation, but he managed to land the axe. And Jensen, he did what he could in that situation. Good utilization of the stealth to buy time, but I wasn't sure if his ultimate was available at the moment because he ended up not using it. So in the end, he couldn't get away.
Yeah, that was definitely really close. You know, like it's easy to watch the replays and say, okay, we could have done this or that. You know, maybe in that situation, had Jensen actually turned around and got the Ignite off as the axe kills him, I think he probably does get the 1-for-1 there, and then that becomes more worthwhile. But it's so hard to know exactly how much damage those turrets are going to do to Jankos.
So close to the duel coming out in the mid lane, but not going to be the focus area. Doublelift now. Engaging into Mikyx, trying to turn it back. Perkz has been caught out. We'll try to use the ultimate to safety, but Impact grabbing the kill immediately. The World Ender comes out. Going to use that movement speed to chase down Mikyx. He's going to try to Spider-Man his way to safety, but I don't think he's going to get the chance. Xmithie is here as well. That's going to be 2 kills picked up for Liquid. They're donating yet another one to Impact. That's going to be huge.
That was a huge teleport from Impact, making plays on the bottom side. Has been doing pretty well up in that top lane. Now down to the bottom lane, gets the flash out of Perkz, takes down both of those kills. And this is going to give Doublelift some time on the turret. It's going to allow Xmithie to take the dragon. And that is a really big swing for TL.
And even though Impact is not on the gangplank, he still finds a way to support the bottom side of the map. He held onto the teleport. Wunder used it to get back into lane. So the moment G2's bot lane tried to go in for the all-in trade, that is when he sees this opportunity. So look at the minimap right now. He's positioning in a way so that he can safely TP towards the bot side of the map. So the moment G2 overextended, they can create a 3 versus 2 situation, and Olaf isn't here to support.
And that Q flash was actually so clean from Impact, anticipating the flash from Perkz. He actually flash follows, nails him with the sweet spot, knocking him down. And Impact, so much credit from him is deserved, you know, to have this playstyle, right? He plays so well towards that bot lane, helping out his team, you know, not prioritizing his own individual success as much and really putting a lot of emphasis on putting his teammates ahead.
Coming into today, this is the matchup that we were looking at. It was Wunder versus Impact. Now, of course, Impact yesterday 2-0 has some dominant stats. Wunder always the guy that you look at G2 to just destroy opponents on the big stage. But this game, yes, he has the scaling Vladimir, but Impact, despite being banned out, despite those champions, those comfort picks being taken away, still impressive to see him make such a huge impact.
And this is one of the big questions that we had coming into not only this game, but this day for TL, was can Impact stand up against the likes of Wunder and the Shy?
It certainly was. TP being invested towards the bot side of the map. G2 trying to make another play.
Calling on the roam down. Jankos immediately going to run in onto the Sejuani. The stun mark is still going to be active, though, waiting for the ultimate to expire before Xmithie's going to reactivate there. Caps is here as well. Has the Akali ulti stolen away? Not going to be able to hit with the abscond or abduct there. Now dashing forward with the first stack of the Akali ult. Looking for a second one. CoreJJ is here. The Galio ulti is available. Mikyx, though, still ready to commit to the play. Perkz on the backside, looking for a way in. Xmithie going to get taken down, deleted instantly, and Jensen just going to back away here. The stun's still going to connect. Jankos flying forward. Going to burn the Akali ult to make the safety. A second charge available, but Impact on the top side is doing damage to that tower and is going to grab plates in exchange.
Yeah, Caps putting a lot of pressure now after kind of being put ahead by Jankos. Jankos and Caps have been spending that pressure down in the bottom lane, and this is similar to how IG had success, or rather they had success against SKT. By putting one lane ahead, they then take that pressure, they move it around the map, and this is something that G2 does so incredibly well. They don't just sit on leads, they pressure those advantages, and they use it to help their other lanes get even further ahead.
Yeah, Caps is a big fan of roaming around the map and looking for opportunities, and this time round, once again, G2 looked for a dive onto the bot side, but TL were in a much better position to respond. The problem for them was that Wunder could then start to collapse from the top lane. We may see another fight here, but no opportunity for Team Liquid. But yeah, Wunder, he was already moving his way through the river because he had priority up towards the top side of the map. So while initially things looked pretty good for Team Liquid, they recognized, okay, this could end up really badly for us, so we need to disengage. But now you notice Team Liquid is split up, and that allows G2 to go for this commitment. So 3 members collapsing down onto Xmithie, who doesn't have the flash or the dash available. Actually, I think Caps even interrupted the dash just in front of the wall there, enabling G2 to pick up these kills and gain a little bit more priority back into the game.
And I think that's just a bit of poor play, honestly, from Xmithie. You know, walking too far forward. Once the ultimate is already committed from Olaf, you've already just, you know, dissuaded the dive. You've already been down there to protect your bottom lane. You don't really need to go any further. He wanted to get something more, and as a result, G2 ends up coming out on top. A Doublelift now, waiting for Perkz.
Perkz potentially caught out here. here is going to try to dash away to safety, but the culling is coming out. Perkz now set to fall. That's going to be all she wrote. Doublelift finding the solo kill.
Big pickup there for Doublelift, lying in wait. Had the summoner spell advantage, had the mana advantage, and had the damage advantage as he finds the kill onto Perkz.
Now we'll see the 2v2 in the mid lane, though. Mikyx coming over the wall with the Hex Splash, not going to connect on Jensen, but it may not matter. Galio's in, but it's too little too late. The entrance might just have to be an exit. CoreJJ running to the hills. G2 taking the play.
That was sick from Mikyx. The Hex Flash over the wall, then the stolen Sejuani, but Wunder in trouble.
World Ender now coming out. Impact desperate to find the kill here. Wunder with a clean flash to try to make it to safety. The healing now coming in. Impact has to be careful. Wunder doesn't have the time to wait this one out. The kill going through for Impact, but the tower firing back.
The solo kill from Impact, but Wunder able to trade back there using his flash, but G2 still coming ahead across the map. Locking down Jensen, bursting him out before he could get the Shroud down was so huge, and that CC chain was massive with the stolen Sejuani ult. Mikyx following up on that.
But these are the kind of plays you want to be seeing from Team Liquid. You don't want them to be falling behind in this early game. You're seeing these individual outplays, still looking for opportunities, going for fights, and the fact that Impact was able to find this solo kill into Wunder, yes, it ends up being a 1-for-1. He's now sitting as a 3-1-0 Aatrox, and they need to keep being proactive to make sure that G2 don't snowball this lead that they've already started to.
And it's a scary position to be in because it is already a 2K lead, Vedius. On top of that, the Herald now picked up by Jankos, and we can look back at this very close exchange.
So, something that you alluded to was this Hex Flash over the wall as Alan. While Mickey does land the Q, it was a tactical Q to get behind Jensen, land the knocker, so that he could continue setting up the CC for the rest of the team. And of course, the Olaf going to be resistant to all of that as well, so they could chase down Xmithie and convert it into 2 kills.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it really just was about the stolen Sejuani ultimate that Caps had. That into the Nautilus ultimate meant Jensen never got off his Shroud. He's burst out before he can actually fight back. Otherwise, that could have been a pretty solid play, but look at this. I mean, this is really impressive from Impact. He is TPing to the bottom lane while Wunder is TPing to lane. He has now not only solo killed Wunder, but he is taking a turret without any jungle pressure. This is certainly a very impressive showing from him, you know, in this game against G2.
The question always felt like it was going to be how hard is Impact going to fall down? Is he going to be a liability? But now instead the question is, what else can Impact do on the top side? How much more can he get done with this kind of big lead in his hands? Has the Black Cleaver finish, has additional cooldown reduction coming in from the Caulfield's Warhammer, and things look pretty good for the Aatrox for now.
I mean, it's quite interesting where the goal disparities are starting to build up, because expectations were that the 2 solo laners for G2 would have the advantage coming into this matchup, and then the bot lane for Team Liquid will be the ones to get that early game lead. And even though G2 were very focused on building leads towards the bot side of the map, Doublelift is actually sitting on a gold lead right now. Impact is the one that is ahead up towards the top side. The big discrepancy is in the mid lane, where Caps has been applying loads of pressure to Jensen. Olaf has been consistently coming mid and trying to shut this Akali down. So you're now looking at Caps and Jankos to be the big carries for G2 to try and maintain control over this game.
Yeah, you certainly are. It's a bit unfortunate for G2 that 2 of those kills did go to Mikyx, and you certainly would have wanted those on the carries. And you know, that's part of the reason that some of these carries for TL are still, you know, pacing their opponents. You know, TL certainly down in gold, but Doublelift at a very strong point in the game. This Lucian, I do definitely favor. You know, in the earlier stages, 1-2 items is monstrously strong. So Perkz certainly wants a little bit more time to scale up, and it's going to be up to his teammates who are already in a good position to buy him that time. For Caps and Jankos to kind of bridge the gap.
Doublelift looks like he's even working towards that Black Cleaver as well, so even further facilitating towards that kind of early spike. And it's likely that they want to try and use this Aatrox, who's already very ahead. I wouldn't be surprised to see Team Liquid start to group up, try and force these fights around the Dragon ahead of when Wunder really hits that big power spike. Because while he does have the Zhonya's, it's really that Spellbinder. Once that comes in, maybe even the Death Cap, this Vladimir really starts to kick into gear, and Team Liquid likely want to force fights before he can get to that point.
And I think Team Liquid has to be painfully aware of that clock that you play on. Anytime you face against a good Vladimir, you're always nervous about that nightmare late game team fight scenario, especially when you have something like a Lucian who has to be up in your face in the front line. But it feels like for now they're in an okay spot. Only 17 minutes into the game. A 1K gold lead. It has gone down a bit, and TL does have double Drakes. This Herald, though, we're going to see if this is going to be used to break top lane tower. How much more can it get is the big question.
Yeah, well, they're definitely going to get top lane turret. I do think TL should be in position to defend the tier 2, so likely it won't be much more than that. But You know, another thing to always consider here for Wunder in this game is the amount of crowd control that is on the side of TL. So he does have to make sure that he's executing his dives very well, that he's pooling appropriately early, not greeting out for extra Qs, things, you know, a mistake we saw Caps fall prey to yesterday. Because there is the taunt, there is the Sejuani ultimate, there's knockups, there's, you know, even the mini stun from Akali and tremendous amount of burst plus double ignite. So it's not as easy for Wunder in this game as it is in some others, so we want to see him really executing cleanly and making sure he's getting off both the pool and zonias in these fights.
But I think it's good that you bring up Caps, because there were question marks as to how well Caps was performing. Yesterday, he wasn't the center of attention for his team. He had a tough lane versus Rookie. But now against Jensen, we're kind of reminded of that level that Caps can perform at when he's given a bit of jungle attention, when he has a favorable matchup, because we see the 1-0-3 scoreline. We see the significant difference between the two mid laners in gold, and now with a Sylas who has so many viable ultimates to steal, you have to think the job does get a bit easier for Wunder as we move later in the game.
And they're even sending Caps up against Impact right now, making the matchup a little bit more even between G2 and Team Liquid, rather than having the Vladimir struggle against this Aatrox. And he's now working towards what looks like the death stance as well, so he's going to have a little bit more sustain and durability. But in fact, they're actually just going to keep Wunder towards the bot side. His teleport is still unavailable, and I'm surprised at this because you would expect to send Wunder up towards the top side because the dragon is about to spawn, but I suppose given Caps does have the teleport as well, they're fine sending him off to the other side lane.
Yeah, and they want to reset Caps here. He just finished another item, so being able to send him back to base, get that power spike before any potential fight would break out. But certainly it is a very, very strong point in the game for Impact. He has his death stance now. He's on 40% CDR with the runes, plus the 30 on his items. I think this is about peak for Aatrox, really, you know, especially in compared to the rest of the game. He's going to be really, really strong right now. We'll see if he's going to be able to execute on this. I think for TL, this is a pretty good moment to take some fights. You have your 2 items on your Aatrox, 2 items on Doublelift as well. Gunblade is already complete for Jensen. He has a stopwatch there, so there's a lot of playmaking potential and a lot of big fight potential.
And Impact now just going to try to find the 1v1 on Caps. Caps in trouble. The World Ender coming back, trying to trade back. Has a lot of healing in his kit as well. The Conqueror now procs. Mikyx on the way up. First to the roam is the G2 lineup. World Ender comes out now. Traded back. Impact will be forced to retreat for now. They're waiting for that time to tick down, but in the meantime, it means TL gets free access to this dragon. Will grab it uncontested, but Impact forced to flash to safety. Jankos now going to try to chase him down. G2 see the strong member, and they want to eliminate him from the map. They're going to cut down Impact. Jankos on a killing spree.
So the trade comes out between the two teams. G2 go towards the top side, TL invest in the Drake. They're now sitting at 3 Drakes so far in this game, and Jensen is getting free time towards this bot tower. So even though G2 do convert this into a kill onto Impact, overall, Team Liquid are the ones that come out with the map advantage.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to be feeling pretty good about this. I'm not sure that Jensen's going to be able to actually finish this off, and look at Caps going in.
Hungry for blood, using everything to go and stealing the ult. Oh, Caps is brutally terrifying.
Fantastic solo kill there from Capson. Note how there was no hesitation whatsoever. He sees the Akali, he knows he can go for the outplay. There's not going to be any support. Caps showcasing why he is the best in Europe.
Yeah, that was sick from Caps. Takes his ult, and then you have as many dashes as the Akali.
Yeah,
the Akali had Shroud down. Jensen was using it for the extra energy for the wave clear there, so no Shroud was available. Used the ultimate to retreat, but Caps is already on top of you. He used the ultimate proactively, so his second charge will be available faster than Jensen's also, and you know that was just very, very nice stuff from G2's mid laner. Caps certainly showing up here against DL.
And we talked about how, given how the bot lane fell a little bit behind, we needed to see Caps step up and be the carry this game. And look at how he does it. Uses the E into chains to close the gap, then has the Akali ultimate to continue the chase. He then has the passive stacks combined with his EQ-W combo, just absolutely beautifully done. And not a hint of remorse on Caps' face.
No, he's got a he's smiling. He knows he's feeling himself, and you got to respect it. The execution damage is significant from Sylas. Difficult for Jensen to win out. And difficult spot now for TL to find themselves in. Yes, the Akali can be more relevant when you move late into the game, but needs a lane where she can safely farm.
And that's been the problem, right? G2, I think, has been much better at moving around the map and punishing these side lanes. They have been much more proactive. Xmithie has really been a pretty big non-factor so far this game. Jankos has had him on the back foot, and ever since Jankos put Caps ahead, they have been using this kind of tag team duo to move around the map, to get vision, and to punish TL when they're trying to pick up these side lane waves.
And while Team Liquid were in a very good position earlier on. You're now looking at Caps level 15, 2 items fully completed. He can sit in a side lane pretty much uncontested, and G2 are doing what they can to enable him as much as possible. They were littered with control wards, and now they're pushing that vision deeper in towards the top side of the map to allow Caps to just continue pushing on this side lane and making it harder and harder for TL to answer.
The setup is clear for Baron. They will have to answer that TL, of course, with the Mountain Drake advantage, which can be so difficult to enter the pit when you have the threat of the Sylas. Impact, strongest member of the team, will now push in. We'll try to do some damage to Jankos, force him out of the area. The Olaf ulti will fall away soon. Will they try to find the re-engage? No, Team Liquid just going to back off. They say they know it's a vision game for now, want to buy more time. They want to get later into this game.
Yeah, and I think that's the correct choice. If you over-chase there, if you commit forward, the Nautilus was in the area. Kai'Sa can always follow up with an ultimate once Nautilus CCs someone, so certainly was the ability to have that turned around on them. They need to know that they're on the back foot and really take positive fights here, but it's the G2 solo laners looking to pick up a kill onto Impact.
Impact's immediately forced to use the World Ender, now needs to run. CoreJJ's ult coming out as well. Quick 2 ults taken away. Difficult spot now for TL and Impact to be in.
You can see how much control G2 have over TL's half of the map. Impact can't even walk through what should be an area of control in his favor, but without the risk of getting collapsed on by a bunch of G2 members. So TL have to be very cautious about how they move through the map and where they look for opportunities to try and claw back control.
And I think that's such a nice play from G2 because Impact is, really the strongest member on the TL team right now. He even has the Executioner, so his 1v1 potential is actually pretty decent against that Vladimir. But by forcing his ultimate out there, there's no way he can actually move aggressively forward. He has to be on the defensive once again. And G2 have been so good in these side lanes, so we'll see if TL can ever really kind of arrest some of that control back and pull their way back into this game, because for now, it is such a massive advantage for Caps in the mid lane. It has been that advantage for Jankos in the jungle, and TL are just kind of trying to withstand this onslaught.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Just look at the gold gap that was between them. 4,000 gold in favor of Caps. Level 16 is really the big break point for a Sylas because his ultimate cooldown is sitting on something like 9-10 seconds, so you can use it multiple times in a single fight. But now it's Jensen looking for a
trying
play.
to get something back here in the mid lane, but Wunder is there as well. Jensen now in trouble, dashes to safety. Good use of the stopwatch, but it may not be enough. Wunder now stepping forward, grabs the kill onto Jensen. Xmithie running for his life. TL desperately need to turn this fight, but Wunder's burned so many cooldowns. Maybe they can force it back on the Galio. TP, Caps will come in on the backside. Doublelift has to be careful. Which ulti is he going to take away immediately? The Sejuani right into the middle of the team. Caps buying his time. So much damage coming out. Perkz is still alive. Perkz still able to throw damage down on the backside of the fight. But TL turning it back. Impact. Big use of the abilities there, trying to find a way to get a kill, but it's just a trace. It's a 1-for-1. Caps won't start getting it back though. Goes golden, buys a bit of time. Now on the retreat, Jankos stepping forward. G2 looking to rout him. Doublelift taken down, an extended trade, but in the end, G2 coming out on top, and Caps is not done yet. Stealing the Galio ultimate, pulling it away. Can now retreat back with his team.
It's the hero's exit for Caps there. He is styling on them at this point. Caps running over this game. And that fight, so much of it coming down to how much was committed to trying to take down Perkz. They're not able to get him. Jensen, decides to go in onto Perkz here, and because of how behind he is, he doesn't quite have the damage to actually finish off Perkz. Look how close this is. Perkz, though, able to cleanse the Ignite and move back. Then, when Caps goes back to base, he TP's in, the fight is really going to start to turn around.
Yeah, exactly this. The 3 members of G2 just buy enough time for Caps to eventually join the fight. The thing that makes this so difficult for G2 is the fact that they're still playing under a tower. So while they would love to commit much harder, there's still this tower to deal with. So Perkz overextends a little bit, Impact finds a good pickup, but it's Caps that really swings this fight in G2's favor, diving multiple towers, going into the enemy base, continuously stealing away these ultimates, ends up in a big teamfight win for G2.
Ooh, and now Jensen just has to back off. Level 16, you mentioned it earlier, Vedius, but the freedom to steal so many ults in the team fights and the freedom to pressure Jensen anytime he wants to in the side lane. Caps, though, still willing to play back, not going to go all in aggressive for the kill. TL with control on the top side of the map, Mikyx potentially in trouble. Immediately the knockout comes out, man advantage here. Perkz now locked up, Perkz is gonna get deleted instantly. TP coming to the backside though. G2, despite the man disadvantage, want the fight to keep going. Impact has the TP available, will they commit? TL may just back off here. Unstoppable now for Jankos. The Olaf, not quite as threatening as he once was. Impact returning to join the team. Wunder caught out on the side, only gonna ult one member, focused on the 1v1 with Jensen, but the rest of the team is there. Caps trying to find a pick on the backside of the map. The taunt has been used. Options to protect the backline running out for the side of TL, but they will just retreat here in the end.
Still a very good pick there for TL. They do get 1 kill. They also get the teleport out of Wunder, and they are able to disengage the fight. So TL playing well from behind, but it is certainly Caps you have to deal with, and that is why they're trying to fight away from, because Caps is completely uncontested right now in the game. I mean, look at the item difference between him and Jensen. It's 3.5 items to 1.5 items.
And notice how the map is being set up right now. While TL do find that pick, and they're able to get that shut down and kind of relieve some of the pressure from G2, the bot lane is being pushed into this tier 2 tower. The top lane is being pushed in as well. And this was just a bit of an overstep from Mikyx, which Doublelift is immediately there to capitalize on. Fantastic ultimate from Xmithie, but we don't have time. There's another fight.
That's Cap's going to keep going in for the trade. Trying to wait, not going in quite as aggressively as he sees the World Ender going. Caps might be in trouble, dashes through, dodges out there. That's going to be massive. Missing a third proc in the Dark and Blade Impact. Running out of time here. Caps going to try to take him down. Perfectly timed. Caps now unstoppable.
Yeah, Caps is just running over this game at this point. Impact playing the fight out pretty well, but Caps able to actually use the Akali's ultimate to dodge out the third hit of that Darkened Blade from Impact, and that sealed the one-on-one.
Why so many teams in Europe have struggled against G2, a triple threat team on their best day. Have to respect Caps, have to respect Wunder. You draft for one lane, you might lose out somewhere else. Caps, an absolutely monster performance thus far, and TL doing what they can to hold on, to buy a bit more time, fishing for that kill on Caps, that crucial shutdown.
G2 now making their way into the base of Team Liquid without Impact there, without that extra source of damage. They don't feel confident in their ability to win the fight. We've already talked so much about it. Jensen is extremely far behind, only level 14, hasn't even completed his second item yet. 4,500 gold behind his lane counterpart. Team Liquid need Impact in these fights if they want to stand a chance. And honestly, with how much damage he was doing with the Executioners, I thought that he could actually win out in that 1v1, but Caps with the fly moves, moving around the map, doing a fantastic job. So now we see the Baron dance begin.
Yeah, and I think TL made the right call to just give up the inhib. If you try to fight that, you're just going down, but Caps now going in.
Wants to blow up Jensen. Jensen, can he make it out safety? But the rest of the team now fishing for a fight. They are going to be take out Mikyx right before anything gets started. Jankos, though, barreling his way into the middle of the team. The knockup is there to keep Perkz out of the back line. Wunder in the midst of everybody manages to kill Doublelift. Xmithie now the last man standing. Caps trying to destroy the team, taking on both solo laners. He's already knocked Impact out of the fight. He's looking for Impact as well. Going to continue the Aatrox ulti. Going to come up. He's still alive. Caps comes through, and Perkz gets the triple kill.
And once again, G2 come out on top in the fight. Team Liquid, they made the right decision right there. They thought that with Caps in a 1v2, this is our opportunity to win, but Wunder hit that break point. The death cap was completed on the Vladimir. Wunder gets the shutdown onto Doublelift, and with the team fight win, G2 are looking for the end.
And this game has been the story of Jankos and Caps. Mikyx as well to start the fights, but now Jensen the last man standing, and this is going to do it. EU versus NA. It was 4-4 and MSI leading up to this. Jensen tries to get one back. Hopeful to get something here in the midst of the fight. That's the two-man taunt. Cap's going to try to end the game. It could just go out here. Can they do it? They can't stop it. G2 come out on top.
Such a well-played game from the European representatives here. All about Jankos, all about Caps. These guys played the early game incredibly well. Jankos spending so much time around that mid lane, giving Caps the advantage. And with that advantage, Caps completely ran over this game. It was all about him.
I mean, you could see, like, I was starting to sweat. You know, I was looking at how Doublelift, even after all that pressure, was still in a big advantage. The Aatrox in the top side of the map was like a whole 1,500 gold ahead of Wunder. And you're looking at this TL squad and you're thinking, okay, they're actually in a pretty good spot to be able to find these good fights, look for the mid game. But unfortunately, they never really found those opportunities. They kept getting split apart by G2. There were one too many skirmishes, and every time it was Caps that was coming out on top. And he got to this point on Sylas where he was uncontrollable. And then unfortunately, even in those fights where TL looked like they had an advantage, Caps just had too much power.
And just when you have an advantage on a Sylas like this, the fact that every ult you take away is so much more powerful. When you're taking Jensen's ult away from him and you're doing twice as much damage, you're just not going to win a 1v1. Now, Jensen, he has that Ignite. You feel like maybe things can go well, but Jankos putting all of that attention mid lane really does pay off, even if it was a little uncomfortable there for European fans as he ran into that tower to throw an axe.
Yeah, I mean, they played it really well, and I think so much credit is deserved by this team. I think not only for the early game, play and how well they're actually executing, but how they're moving advantages around the map. And I think that's something that we saw against SKT and something we saw again here. They cover the weaknesses with their strengths, and I think they can be very proud of this game.
And an excellent day or win to start the day for G2, but more on that G2 win. Let's hand it over to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Jankos. In the battle between the EU and the NA super teams, it is the EU team that reigns supreme. G2 Esports coming out on top of Team Liquid. It was the predicted victory from the three of you here on the desk, but it didn't necessarily come in the way that we had expected.
Yeah, I think we, in the draft, ended up seeing more focus around the bottom lane from G2 than we expected, with the Nautilus Kai'Sa coming in. I was like, okay, Zyra Rakan, and then they have the great engage for later, and then they don't need to do too much. But they wanted to actually try and kill CoreJJ and Doublelift in the early game. So they tried to basically attack the strength of TL.
Yeah, it was smart. Remember, level 1 coming in, late invade, force the vertical jungling. It put Team Liquid in a position they've never been before, having to force to play topside. I thought Impact played well under the circumstances. It was just a situation going into the mid game. A lot of it, I thought G2 understood their win conditions and played to it well.
I mean, that said, while everything was blitzed at the bot lane, it was still felt like a bit of an overreach at times from Mikyx and Perkz. Doublelift definitely getting kind of the last laugh there, especially in like the solo kill. So while I agree that it felt like the teams listened to your win conditions, like, let's do exactly the opposite of what those guys want. We're gonna put, Impact on a carry. We're going to blitz Jensen in the mid lane with caps, and we're gonna make sure that we try to attack through the bottom lane for Doublelift.
Well, I think that's kind of the important things in this draft here. The Sylas that was first picked, they could have put it top lane and then blind pick something else for mid. Taking something else for mid into the Akali if they felt like Sylas was a better blind top. But there's no reason to do that because Sylas will do well against Akali. And they 100% trust, obviously, that caps will carry the game, which is also why Jankos did spend some time around him. So I think the draft with the Vladimir and the end, they needed something blind up there. And you can then argue on the other side of TL, could they have done something different to try and shut it down? I don't think so. I think the Aatrox, they didn't play around it, in my opinion. They just left it. Yeah. And when Wunder went to mid lane to hit a turret, Impact just killed the top lane turret and so on. It wasn't really playing towards top. It was completely ignored.
Right. It appeared that TL still wanted to play around bot side, leaving Impact on that island. We even saw him making that TP down. But first, let's talk about this mid lane attention at the top of the day. Akali equals win. Well, apparently it does not.
Jensen actually played this first one well, where he was able to go straight back into the Shroud, but it wasn't like Jankos saying, okay, I'm not coming back into the lane. He doubled down, got the nice dive on towards the tower because Caps was able to land his Gundam Duck.
And the problem with TL and Akali right now is that you know where it's going to go. 9 times out of 10, it's going to end up in Jensen's hands. And so that just gives you a huge telegraph play, and it's very easy for Jankos and Caps to then adjust and say, okay, we know it's probably going to be the mid lane Akali. Let's make sure that we have the matchup that we like, know how to execute on it, and then just double down, continuously applying that pressure. There was nothing Akali could do. Once he fell behind, there's no lane assignments, and then you have so many more win conditions for G2. They can play out into the side lanes if they want, because they're smashing the solo laners. Impact was fed, but Sylas at some point was just going to be too massive. Or if TL tried to group up, you're fighting an uphill battle against that gold deficit that has already been created in the mid lane. What, like 5K?
Oh, yeah, it was absolutely absurd. Near the end of the game, an individual advantage of about 5K. It wasn't just that kill, there was a CS lead too early on. But let's take now a look at the bot lane, because as we mentioned, both teams putting some attention down here. This was just a straight up 2v2 kill for the side of G2.
Yeah, I think CoreJJ not fully respecting the press the attack from Perkz right there, and then going down with the ignite. But this play was big.
Yeah, and Deficio, I was going to call you Doublelift, sorry man.
I'll take that.
Deficio, you pointed out that that wouldn't have been a play, even if that was just the 2v2. Like, what are G2 doing with Perkz and Mikyx constantly taking those types of trades?
Yeah, I mean, so Lucian is already at the turret, so you're not really going to one-shot him. There's also Galio who's going to taunt your AD carry, so you can't really kill the Lucian. The jungler was not on bot side, so they also didn't really know what was going to happen in terms of Xmithie maybe moving down. That was just a bad 2v2. And this is, again, the downside of playing really high-risk League of Legends. You have 3 lanes who's all saying, I have a small lead, I'm going to push it further. I want to get more kills. I want to be the carry. It actually ended up putting Perkz and Mikyx in a situation where they underperformed. And they gave TL a lot of ways back into this game. The TP from Impact was great. It should have obviously been called very easily. Hey, I have no TP top. He has a TP, don't fight. But they didn't. And the moment we start seeing these kills come in, it actually felt like, okay, the game is slowing down in favor of TL just slightly. But then Caps start getting kill.
Right, exactly. You've got the Aatrox with the gold for the side of Team Liquid. You've got the Sylas with the gold for the side of G2 Esports. When it comes to the team fight phase, it was the Sylas who really had his way with things.
If Team Liquid wanted to be able to get back into the game after the double kill going on towards Impact, we wanted to see Xmithie go topside and be able to at least allow him to push. Because when these fights come through, this one was started off by Jensen seeing an opportunity on towards the AD carry, but of course, no member was there to follow up at all. Team Liquid had an opportunity if they had their strongest member, having a shot wave, willing to push, but that was never the instance. In fact, Jankos and Caps were always there to respond.
I mean, for me, this was just between a rock and a hard place. Some flash moves, fly caps, steals the Galio ultimate, and then actually Galio ultimate out of it. And that's kind of like the picture-perfect microcosm of this game. You had the creativity of caps that was going off, the Sylas, and the fact that TL couldn't contest in the side lanes. Their solo laners fell too far behind that even Impact with his lead wasn't going to be able to deal with it. And then when it came, again, to that 5v5, they're like, we have to take the fight. This is our only way back into it, but we were just slow to the punch.
I wonder if the TL camp are not sitting now saying, was there a way to make Akali actually work here? Because when you're against Sylas and Olaf and you have a Sejuani, I don't feel like there is a way you can protect your mid lane enough. It actually allowed Jankos, as we saw earlier in the clips, first tower dive at level 4 or something, then reganks it, and he keeps showing up mid. There wasn't really a way for Jensen to get any help in this game. And while obviously Caps just played better than him, he also had a jungler next to him all the time. So it almost felt like the success on Akali yesterday slightly baited TL to take it way too early in the draft and then not actually think, what do we need to build around this Akali against G2 in order for this to succeed?
And I think Caps is getting a lot of credit here because I agree with you. You think that the adaptation there is, if Jankos looks for that type of dive and Xmithie is waiting in the wings, maybe it doesn't snowball that hard. But huge credit to Jankos and G2 for splitting up the jungle, vertical jungling very early on the early level, and then placing down deep wards, constantly having vision and information about what Xmithie was doing to open up those opportunities.
Well, you saw it there earlier. Caps received MasterCard Player of the Game for his performance in this game, but it's time now for us to hear from the guy who got him rolling. Shox is standing by with Jankos to hear more about that victory.
Thank you very much, Dash. I'm here with Jankos, G2 victorious over Team Liquid. You guys put a lot into trying to ban out or take out Impact. However, he seemed to be quite the menace in the game. What made the game difficult for you guys?
Well, I mean, I think we made some mistakes around bot lane, and Team Liquid is a team that always capitalizes their leads on the bot lane. So I think without us trying to overforce around there a little bit, the game was kind of clean.
At one point, I feel like it did go into trying to overforce or knowing that you had the upper hand. Was there a point in the game where you realized, okay, Vlad's on the power spike, Sylas is on the power spike, let's do this?
I think it was just more that we felt like, Caps was so much stronger than Akali. So we just agreed that if we take the fight right now, we will probably win because we are just stronger, on our solo lanes. And, they got flanked a couple of times or they got caught. And even though Kai'Sa was like sometimes getting caught as well, right? Then as long as Lucian dies and Akali is so behind, they can't really team fight. So I felt like, Wunder and Caps played really well around the fact that Aatrox was strong as well, and they fought him, they won against him, they caught Impact a couple of times, and then when Impact lost his lead and Jensen was already behind, then, the game was really hard for them.
Okay. Yeah, so basically you felt like you couldn't lose this game once you were in it?
I mean, I felt like at some point I was like sweating a little bit because, we, like I mentioned before, we lost like 2 Drakes and we had some fights that were just not in our favor and we got caught a couple of times. So I felt like, I'm not sure if we played bad or if Team Liquid played well, but I mean, overall, we always had the lead because our mid lane and top lane were like always kind of like strong ahead. And our bot lane was like super ahead early game, but then, we just make a couple of mistakes. So I felt like we were in control. I didn't feel like we would lose this game, but it was for sure not easy one.
Okay. You mentioned your top laner, your bot laner, your mid. You've been having quite the MSI so far as well. Some really nice outplays and I think also strong jungle games. We don't talk too much about the end of that IG game, but how do you feel you've been doing so far? And how much do you think you can make happen here at MSI, specifically as a jungler?
Yeah, I think I'm playing well. I didn't have my end games yet, so maybe one end game will happen in groups, you'll see. But so far, I'm really happy with my performance. I think every game I've been playing well. I ruined my KDA though because I died on Elise and on Olaf like by the end of the game twice now. But I mean, except for that, I'm pretty happy with my performance. I hope I can bring even more to the table because going against likes of Klid and Nink is always difficult and always entertaining to play against them. But yeah, I just hope I can like play better than now and at least keep my performance.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that Jankos-Ning matchup later today versus IG. Thank you very much. Congratulations. G2 takes the game over Team Liquid. Quick break for us, but when we come back, it is Fangwu Buffalo up versus the Flash Wolves. Don't go anywhere.
Caps going forward. Jankos is here as well. Does manage to land the stun in the Shroud. Invisible, but I don't think it's going to be long enough. The flash out clutch from Jensen. Jankos wants it. He's going for it. The axe will come through, will connect, and Jankos takes down Jensen. Area, Doublelift now. Engaging into the Mikyx, trying to turn it back. Perkz has been caught out. Will try to use the ultimate to safety, but Impact grabbing the kill.
I'm not sure that Jensen's going to be able to actually finish this off, and look at Caps going in.
Hungry for blood, using everything to go and stealing the TP. Caps will come in on the backside. Doublelift has to be careful. Which ulti is he going to take away immediately? This is Sejuani right into the middle of the team. Caps buying his time. So much damage coming out. Perkz is still alive. Perkz still able to throw damage down on the backside of the fight. But TL turning it back. Impact. Mikyx right before anything gets started. Jankos though barreling his way into the middle of the team. The knockup is there to keep Perkz out of the back line. Wunder in the midst of everybody manages to kill Doublelift. Xmithie now the last man standing. Caps trying to destroy the team, taking on both solo laners. Caps gonna try to end the game. It could just go out here. Can they do it? They can't stop it. G2 come out on top.
So Josh, you going for our Drive Safe and Save discount?
Yep, using the app, driving safe.
You wanna go? You wanna go, bro?
Hey, do not mess with my discount. You can save up to 30%.
Let's go!
Nice to meet you. Go get him, Tiger.
Sounds like you've got this.
Yeah, definitely.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.